So today we're talking Rudolph and why I kind of hate that song. Admittedly, I think I make one of these lonely Jew on Christmas statements every year, but seriously, I don't like Rudolph.
On retrospect, I have issues with the Rudolph story as a whole.
Yeah. Like, I even as a kid, I wondered if anyone actually, listened to the lyrics, because I was listening and I didn't like it.
I often felt like an outcast as a child, and the Rudolph story is just like, he goes back, and because they can use his talents, he's accepted.
Right.
But they don't accept him because he's weird, they accept him because his weirdness is exploitable.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is that people would argue with me and try to, convince me it was fine. They'd be like, no. After he proved himself, then all the other reindeer loved it. And that's not a good lesson. No. It's, legitimately not a good lesson. The example I use is Pinocchio's nose deforms as a punishment and a tell for lying. But in narratives of both Rudolph and Dumbo, and I'm going to say Dumbo the cartoon because I never saw the movie, the live action, even though Michael Keaton is in it, so you'd think that would have been reason enough to see it.
Was Burton in charge of that one too?
Probably. But I don't like Dumbo either, because they have that same vastly sinister lesson where you are allowed to be different. You'll be allowed to be different, your natural difference that you were born with, if you can prove yourself useful, or at least more spectacular because of your difference. You can't just be different. It needs to be a superpower. And I hate that. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Just let people be different.
Just let people be different. And they act like Santa did Rudolph a favor by letting him guide the sleigh so he could earn respect, but that's nonsense.
It's progressive in the 1950s aspect, where it's trying to teach the majority, hey, if someone's different, it might be useful, so shut up. But for the people who are different, it doesn't come off like that.
Right. So imagine if you are the different kid, which we were.
Yeah.
It's not a great story. It's just not. And what are these characters supposed to do otherwise? Just cut off the offensive parts? Just mutilate themselves? And poor Dumbo is practically tortured in the movie. There are other problems with Dumbo that I won't get into. Racism. But in any case, I don't like the lesson that we can't just be functioning like anyone else in spite of these unique things. We have to only love ourselves if we are super special. And
nothing about Rudolph's nose would prevented him from just being like a normal reindeer, living a normal life, except it was everyone's reaction to his glowing nose.
Exactly. And then...
And the benevolent dictator Santa doesn't even give a shit.
No. And you have to be even better so that the assholes who mock you and ostracize you will accept you. That's your goal, is to be accepted by these horrible people.
Yeah.
And I never understood that. Santa included.
Rudolph should have gone and worked for Hanukkah.
Yep, I agree with that. And I've equated this to, what happens to most marginalized groups. Anyway, we get accepted by the bullies, which generally means being assimilated and stripped of our own heritage. But then at least we're safe from those bullies because the bullies won. And that's not great. And you know what else? What if Rudolph, better party, he was the better, stronger person for saying yes to helping. But what if he had just left? Or helped and then just never went back to play any games? Just completely fucked up. That, I think, would be a better story. Here, you got what you wanted, now bye.
I'm making a terrible analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So, in wrestling, there's a... we're talking about wrestling and Rudolph.
Yeah.
In wrestling, there was a thing where, if someone didn't want to play ball, they basically... It was called holding up the promoter, where they'd be like, I'm not going to lose to this guy unless you give me $5,000 cash right now. So, if you had done that to Santa, it's just like, oh, you want to save Christmas? I think I should be made mayor of Christmastown.
Yeah. Or... Okay, on the flip side, though, what if in the story Rudolph had been, desperate enough for acceptance, for the abuse to stop and all that he did something, really degrading? Instead of just lead the way, Santa had, used him as an ornament on a tree. And he had to just stay there and glow. Ugh. Would the story still work?
No.
I feel in terms of what the story is, what difference would it make? You're still saving Christmas whether you're the star at the top of the tree or not. And that bothers me. Bothers me deeply.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if they wanted him to be a nightlight, they could have been kinder. Or they could have been hey, let him play with, one other, dancer. Somebody could have been hey, maybe Rudolph is not hideously deformed. Or even if he is. Even if this is considered a horrible deformity, maybe still accept him anyway.
At the end of the story, do they still send toys to the Island of Misfit Toys?
Like in the movie?
Yeah. That practice doesn't seem to be, like, ended. It's just those toys got pardoned.
Oh god, I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't even thinking about that animation.
All the misfits. Basically, that movie's entirely about misfits, but their goal is not to overthrow the order. It's just to be accepted into the lowest strata of the order.
Did that one have a dentist?
Yeah, the elf who wanted to be a dentist.
There was an elf dentist.
There was an elf who wanted to be a dentist.
Through all that, Dumbo is still more depressing for a lot of reasons. And, okay, here's the thing about Misfits.
I haven't watched Dumbo in like 10 years.
We're not going to.
Okay.
We're not going to. It's horrible. But, as a side note, since we're talking about Misfits, I do feel like reindeer should have wings if they're specifically a flying type. Like, I never understood why don't they have wings? It's a Superman logic, right? Up, up, and away, but, like...
I don't know exactly the reindeer flying. I think it started as like a metaphor and then just myth built upon myth until the poem, and then it just became like, oh, the reindeer fly, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, okay. You're right that Rudolph should have just, like, converted.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I love things like Addams Family and Monster High, because that media says different is beautiful, no strings attached. So since we have those things for kids today,
yeah, why
do we still have Rudolph? The song.
Rudolph got grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Because I think the song existed before the animation.
I assume, yes. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
And the Rankin Bass animation kind of set, like... Yeah. It's just one of those things that constantly plays.
At least in the Misfits toys, like, he's not alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's not alone in terms of,
they
like,
should have just built a better meritocracy on the island of Misfit Toys. And he could have been a dentist, and if other people don't get Christmas, then fuck you. You kicked me out.
Kinda. You know, it's just... It's awful. It's all awful. I love those animations, though. I do. I like Jack Frost.
Oh, yeah. No, the Rankin Bass anime. Everything Rankin Bass is just like... If you put on a Rankin Bass, I'll watch it. I love that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so good.
In any case, those are my feelings on Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
It's not a great moral lesson.
And it's not even... The fact that his nose is red isn't even that's not the problem. The problem is that it glows. The problem is that it's like a light bulb.
Yeah.
And does it always glow? Does it never turn off? Is that a problem for him? Like, can he sleep?
It, like, blinks on and off in the cartoon. It doesn't... He seems to sleep fine.
Because... I don't know, I feel like he could have a prosthetic if it's really that big of a problem. Like, he could have something that covers it.
Well, they did that in the cartoon. Like, his dad tars over his nose to pass him as a normal reindeer.
Oh, that's not what I mean.
And then it falls off. Yeah.
That's not what I meant at all. I mean, it's like... Oh, no.
No, his dad is super glowophobic.
That's terrible.
His dad was like, no son of mine's gonna have a glowing nose. And no one partook that, like, example into themselves and said, oh, I should accept my child no matter what.
Oh, no. Well...
Yeah, that is canon in the cartoon.
Well, okay, so Festival of Lights, he should be working for Hanukkah.
Work for Hanukkah.
He'd be accepted. His nose can be the shamash.
I've seen TikToks about it. I did a comic about it. It's not a rare interpretation that Rudolph should have been like, Christmas can live and die on its own. I'll work for Hanukkah.
Seriously. Alright, so that's my spiel. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Listen, if you're weird, that's fine. Everybody's weird. Some people are just hiding it better. You do you. As long as you're not hurting anybody, you're a wonderful person and we love you.
Exactly. Rock on.
Rock on.